So, good morning. I'm very happy to be here again today. And today, can you believe it? It is the 22nd broadcast of the early morning show. And today we're going to be continuing the topic of active referrals. So this month, in April 2023, we have 4 broadcasts, and they are just on the topic of active referrals. We started this the last time, and today we're going to continue it a little bit further. Let me change my slide. So as we know, the early morning show, it's every Thursday morning from 8:30 to 9:30. And I share some thoughts, ideas, and best practices about legal business development, sales and marketing. Although, again, to be honest, I think by now you've noticed I'm very much biased towards sales and less towards marketing. So the first half hour today, and I must be good with my timing, the first half hour today from 8:30 until 9 o'clock Central European time is going to be me telling the 16 key concepts of Active Referrals Part 2. And then at 9 o'clock, we have a very interesting interview that I'm going to do with a person called Mikola Stestenko. He's the managing partner of the law firm Avellum. And Avellum is one of the top 3 law firms in Kiev, in Ukraine. So I was working with these guys before the war, before the pandemic, back in 2017, 2018. In fact, an interesting thing to know is before the pandemic, in the late 2010s, Ukraine was actually my biggest market for legal business development. So I was working with about 10 or 12 different law firms just in Kiev. So for whatever reason, even more law firms in Ukraine than in Russia. So in any case, we're going to have an interview with Mikola from 9 o'clock. He's a really nice fellow. He's doing very interesting things. It's a very successful company. And also, I want you to think about this from the perspective of L2L sales. There will be some different opportunities for collaboration. And you do have clients, not necessarily of your own jurisdiction, who have presence in Ukraine or who will have presence in Ukraine post-war. When they start doing the rebuilding, I keep hearing this wonderful number of 600 billion euros, or maybe it's dollars, which is going to be confiscated and frozen from the Russians and then invested into Ukraine for development. While we can probably expect that a lot of that is going to go to the American companies, I think some of the Europeans are going to be in a good position. And it's not impossible that if you have clients, then there can be some opportunities for them in 2023, 2024, whenever this dreadful situation finishes, for investment and development in Ukraine. So Mikola is a good person for you to know. If you're partner, managing partner level, I would recommend you actually take the opportunity to have a tete-a-tete, to have a meeting, to have a 30-minute Teams call with him. And I'm happy to facilitate that, or you can just Google him. You'll be able to find him yourself. Okay, well, let's continue. So today we're looking at active referrals. But before we do, I noticed something very interesting when I looked at the Nixedonia YouTube channel. So ladies, particular, pay attention here. In the YouTube channel for Nixedonia, so I'm publishing Nixedonia shorts every day across social media, in LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, even TikTok. So targeting the younger lawyers, I do my short 2 or 3 minute videos, which I broadcast. And then once a week, we have our early morning show, and then some ad hoc live streams. But YouTube can actually show you the demographics of your audience. And look at this. The demographics for the Nixedonia channel, for some reason, it's overwhelmingly male. 94.8% of the viewers are male. Only 5.2% are female. And in terms of the age, we can see that the viewers, for the men, they're usually between, well, from 18 to 34. For the women, it's a little bit younger, like mostly from 18 to 24, a little bit 25 to 34. But I'm thinking, ladies, what's going on? You know, there is no discrimination here on my side. This broadcast and these materials are open access on YouTube. They're available for everybody. Why is this so overwhelmingly an area of male interest? It's really a pity. It's really a pity. I'm not discriminatory. And the language which I'm using is not especially just like male focused. So what can we take from this? I would say, ladies, don't let the men dominate this. You know, you're just as smart as the guys. Actually, as a teacher, I can tell you sometimes you're smarter. I think it's really a pity. I think it's really a pity. So if you're a lawyer and you're a woman, I would encourage you very, very much. Don't let the men dominate this. Get interested in the business development. And then I was thinking for our ladies who are involved in marketing, and I have to be very careful how I express this. And I'm not being sexist, and I'm not being discriminatory, and I'm not being nasty. But quite often, the people in marketing, it is ladies. And then I was wondering how much of this is pink collar jobs. You know, if you look at the assistants, if you look at the distribution of the genders in a law firm, the assistants, the secretaries, the marketing people, HR, it might often be the ladies. And then I'm thinking, where are the big opportunities and the career opportunities and the money? You know, if you can develop your sales skills, if you're a marketing lady, you can move a little bit more towards the sales, you can generate the revenues, you won't be viewed as just some glorified secretary or personal assistant or administrative person or expense. You'll be seen as a revenue generator, you'll be taken seriously, you have career growth and opportunities. And I'm not sure if I'm being offensive or not. I'm not trying to be offensive, but I'm just using this as a rallying call that for our ladies, please, you know, you have the opportunity, take an interest in business development. It can be very good for your career and your possibilities moving forward. It's really interesting. It's really strange, actually, that 19 out of 20 viewers for Nixedonia are men. Well, it is what it is. So let's continue with the topic of the active referrals. I have always been telling you for almost the last 24 broadcasts, that your metric of success in business development, quite simply, is getting meetings. And the meetings, some of these meetings will become mandates, and the mandates, they generate money. So your metric isn't how much time you invest per week in business development, although you should be measuring that as well. Your metric is how many meetings you manage to get. Absolutely critical. Meetings with current clients, meetings with ex-clients, meetings with new clients. If you're coming from a big firm, like when I was in Deloitte until December, you could even have meetings inside your firm, internal meetings. So meetings are a good thing. I wouldn't recommend that you just do some kind of marketing and publicity, because you can invest a ton of time into marketing and publicity. It doesn't guarantee you're going to make any money. You need to get meetings. However, based on my experience, and again, I have to be polite here, not to offend people, there is a waste of time meeting. So let me share my experience. Sometimes I pitch managing partners of law firms. For my business, managing partners, they are the key decision maker. I pitch to these people and then I say, hey, I'm James, I do this business development stuff. Sometimes I do legal writing. Maybe you want to hire me. Maybe you want to invest in your lawyers. And sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no. Actually, I can tell you, 1 out of 3 actually says yes within 2 weeks. So I know my conversion ratio. However, one annoying thing I've noticed about law firms is sometimes these meetings are delegated to somebody who is a non-KDM, a non-key decision maker. It would be somebody in marketing, it would be some other HR manager, be some lawyer, somebody else. And quite often you go to the meeting and you realize that the person you're speaking to has little clue about what it is that you're offering, has no authority, no purchase decision. It's a waste of time meeting. So what I discovered, and this is quite recently in the last few years, especially actually from my Deloitte time since 2020, there can be a waste of time meeting. My advice, guys, would be you need to actually be more selective about who you agree to meet. And I doubt you're going to do this. But I would even recommend you refuse to go to a meeting if this has been delegated to a non-KDM. So let's imagine you've pitched the CEO, the founder, the general director of a company with your value proposition as a lawyer, and they delegate this to somebody else, to the HR manager, to some other middle manager. you will probably almost inevitably agree to go to that meeting because it looks like a good thing. And you'll probably be wasting your time. You need to speak to the KDM. So be very careful about who you're actually speaking to. And probably it will come with a little bit of experience that when you get your time wasted enough, you're gonna refuse to go to these silly meetings. You need to meet with the key decision maker. Again, last time I was explaining the difference between active referrals and passive referrals. A passive referral, just to summarize, especially for those who weren't here last time, a passive referral is what you've already had before. You're a good lawyer. I know you're a good lawyer. And a passive referral is when you do high quality legal work, and then your client recommends one of their friends, and they come to you, and your practice grows. And to be honest, for most of the law firms, this is how they grow. It's organic growth. An active referral is when you tell an existing client, hey, I know that you're acquainted with so-and-so. I know you're friends with this guy. Let's go and have a tea for 3. I'd like to propose them something. So active referrals are more unusual. I've met a lot of partners here in Europe who have never done active referrals, which is a great pity because your clients generally like you and they would be glad to help. For different reasons, which we'll go into during today's broadcast, passive referrals are bad. You don't control them. They're usually commodity. They come when you don't need them. You have no strategy. Active referrals are very, very, very good. You can focus on your niche, on your industry. You control them. You can go for premium work. So I'm recommending active referrals very much. I've written a book about it, and I'm not a fan of passive referrals. A very silly thing that I see lawyers doing, and actually this happens in other industries. I remember I saw the tax guys doing this at Deloitte, is called the open referral. It is very silly to say to somebody, so tell me, do you have any friends who need legal advice? Are there any of your colleagues who could help? You know, if you ask me this, and even if you're my lawyer and I like you and I trust you, it's just such a big question. I don't know who to think about. I'm not sure who to recommend. It's too broad, so that's probably going to fail. An open referral is not a good idea. You need to be a little bit cheeky and you need to tell who you would like to be referred to. Or let's go into the gray area, at least focusing on a specific industry or sector and a specific value proposition. So while I don't recommend an open referral, you might consider having a recommend a friend program. So if you have a value proposition, you're a corporate lawyer and you pitched an ESOP, an employee share ownership plan, to the CEO of a tech company, and you did it, and he was happy. You could say to him, hey, you know, probably you know other decision makers in the IT industry. We have a recommend a friend program. Do you think any of your colleagues might also be interested in launching an ESOP? Because if so, I'd love to invite you to dinner, bring them along, and maybe I could do a favor for you as well. So the generic open referral is a bad idea, but if you can structure it a little bit, have it a bit more focused as a recommend a friend program, some kind of active referral campaign, that might actually work better. That's probably a good idea. And a nice idea about active referrals, which I very often don't see happening at all, even at managing partner level. So managing partners, pay attention. You can plant a seed. You can plant a seed. So if you're starting working with me, I'm a Scottish businessman, and you've connected to me on LinkedIn, of course, and you can see that I'm friends with some other Scottish businessmen because I'm a foreigner, which means probably I am connected to other foreigners in our jurisdiction. You could say to me at the start of our relationship, you know, James, tomorrow I may ask for an introduction to your good colleague, Hamish. Hamish, I know, is doing these really interesting things in his company. They have these issues. And in a similar light that this advisory can be of value for you, I think this could be perhaps useful for Hamish in future. But anyway, let's come back to that later, James. You know, first we're going to focus on this task. So you can plant a seed. And you don't forget it. Once you have told them, tomorrow I may ask, later, and you get your timing right, when you have the closing, when you hit a milestone, then you do ask. So you can warm them up a little bit, but you have to be careful with timing, guys. There is this thing called buyer's remorse. So this is an economic term, I'm not sure if it translates into our different languages. Buyer's remorse is post-purchase regret. So I'm thinking of the example of when I was living in St. Petersburg. So I was living in St. Petersburg. I was working at DLA Piper. And about 10, 15 years ago, mobile phones were very prestigious. So if you had the young lawyer who would buy some kind of iPhone or something, it was very prestigious. So maybe he would be earning 1,000 euros per month, and he would go out and he would buy a telephone for 1,000 euros. And then he would be eating like instant noodles for the next month. After about a week, he realizes that that mobile phone isn't as wonderful as he thought. You know, the iPhone 14 doesn't really differ that much from the iPhone 13, and he has post-purchase regret. He becomes sad. You have done this yourself. Buyer's remorse. You regret a purchase decision. It doesn't maybe meet your expectations, or you just regret it. Buyer's remorse can happen very much with some kind of commodity, even a premium commodity like a telephone. It can definitely happen for premium legal services. I might not really even be able to see what I bought, but I can understand that it cost me thousands of euros. And what did you give me? You give me some paper, you gave me a memorandum, and you give me the answer yes, or you give me the answer no. It's entirely possible that a client who is delighted on closing within a few days, within a week, they're no longer so delighted. So how does this apply for active referrals? You gotta be quick. You gotta be quick. Clients might not necessarily stay happy for long. If you're gonna ask for an active referral, you can't do it at the very start of the relationship because they don't know you. You probably shouldn't do it in the middle of the relationship because you're still working on building social equity and trust with them. Towards the end, you can. Maybe pre-closing or at closing, but within, I would even say within 24 to 48 hours of closing, you need to ask for your active referral. Because if you wait 1 or 2 weeks later, because you're a very busy person, they might have buyer's remorse and they don't love you anymore, and they won't agree to give you an active referral. A wonderful capability that you have and that you're probably overlooking is your LinkedIn. Because in the LinkedIn, you can actually see the degrees of connection that you have. First degree connections, you're connected to them. It is going to be the easiest source of active referrals. Second degree, you know somebody who knows them. And third degree is the hardest. You know somebody who knows somebody who knows them. Now, if you buy Sales Navigator, the license, which I strongly recommend you do, if you're the kind of lawyer or partner, managing partner, who's dedicated enough to be watching this broadcast on a Thursday morning about legal sales and marketing, you're probably the kind of lawyer who would benefit from having a LinkedIn Sales Navigator license. This costs 80 euros per month. It's absolutely fantastic for business development. Now, what you can do is definitely you have to connect to those who are on your hit list. And once you're connected on the hit list, it makes it so much easier to ask a first degree connection for an introduction to another first degree or second degree connection. If somebody is second or third degree connection, you need to connect with them, or you need to connect with somebody to connect with them. And of course, you always write a message. You never send a blind connection request. You send a connection request, not plain vanilla. Don't introduce yourself. Hey, I'm a lawyer. I do this. Let's get connected. They might block you because they're afraid you're going to sell something to them. You know, reach them with a question. A question is interesting because there is the buyer-seller spectrum. If a lawyer approaches me, I'm going to be cynical. I'm thinking, what are they going to sell me? Are they going to be annoying? Probably want to block them. But on the other hand, if a lawyer reaches me, maybe they heard about me. Maybe they want to work with me. Maybe they have a client. Maybe they are a client. So you can play with that. So for your active referrals, don't overlook the possibilities for research, especially, and for connection via LinkedIn. And an incredibly important thing is your social equity. Guys, what on earth is the problem? What is the problem? Why aren't you going to lunch with your clients? This is unbelievable. I speak to so many partners. I'm not even picking on lawyers. I speak to so many partners and I ask them, when was the last time you did a T for 2? When did you do a T for 3? And quite often the answer is never. You're not going to get an active referral unless you have trust and high quality work. I'm assuming that you have high quality work. So I don't think there should be a problem there. But in terms of the social equity, I think you have room for improvement. Do a tea for two before you ever do a tea for three. You need to go and have a lunch, just the two of you. Speak about football, speak about holidays, speak about the kids. Don't sell anything. Just be a nice person, build that relationship, build the social equity. If you're contacting your potential client all the time just to try and sell them something, they're going to get kind of annoyed. So you have to include sweeteners. You should have your tracker table in Excel, April, May, June, July, August, and you have your list of your clients, and you can recycle the different things that you're sending. So in April, you're going to send an interesting article that you've written just for fun because you like your client. In May, you're going to suggest a tea for two. In June, you're going to invite them to a business breakfast. In July, you're going to suggest to do a match make. So you got to mix it up. You can't just be pitching. So pay attention to the social equity. Active referral as a T for three is harder than cross-sell. And again, just between you and me, most lawyers and law firms are pretty awful when it comes to cross-selling. And active referrals is usually off the scale. Usually nobody is doing this. Maybe some managing partners are, but usually it's not happening. And of course, it has to be your treat. One way to make the active referral work is you take the company credit card and you pay for it. You say, hey, client, let's go and have dinner. You say, James, I want to treat you to sushi. And bring along your friend Hamish because, and you say, why? I'm just thinking that even this doesn't always help. I've spoken to quite a few managing partners and they allocated a budget for corporate entertainment and they gave the lawyers and the other partners a company credit card and they said, hey, go and take lunches, go and have dinners with the clients. And quite often it was ignored. This budget wasn't even spent. It's a problem. So yeah, you need to pay. You can play host. So for example, yesterday, I hope he will forgive me for saying this, but yesterday I met with a managing partner of one law firm. No, I shouldn't mention it. It's a Czech law firm. And he said, hey, James, let's go and have lunch. And he took me to this really nice lunch and it was his treat. And of course, it wasn't just a social thing. We talked about some business. It works. You can do this. So be friendly, treat your clients, your ex-clients. And when you send your email, because I'm expecting that most of us, even though it would be better to invite an active referral by phone or in speaking in person, I think many of us as lawyers, we love our emails, although it's less effective. If you're going to send an active referral email, don't attach anything to it. No PDF, no hyperlinks, lone links, no distraction. This is actually true if you're sending an IDA pitch in sales writing at all, and it's especially true if you're doing an active referral. Don't distract the person. The purpose of your message, your metric of success, is an agreement to get a T for three. So don't distract them. I see this happening all the time. Lawyers and partners overcomplicate the message. Short and concise. So you'd write to me, hey, James, there's this thing happening in such and such an industry. I noticed you're friends with this guy, Hamish. Let's go and have a lunch together because I think this could be interesting for him. It means there's nothing to be ashamed of saying what the purpose of this meeting is. What do you think? Shall we do Tuesday at 2 or Friday at 4? That's it. No attachments, no hyperlinks, no distractions. Nice and concise, to the point. And you don't need to hide what you're doing. I really, really recommend, and again, for our marketing colleagues, actually for everybody, an active referral campaign is absolutely brilliant. You know, for some reason, I find I have more success when I block time and I do one business development activity with lots of different targets at the same time. So, for example, I'm working with one Central and Eastern European legal network. They are present in about 10 countries. Last Friday, I was with them in Frankfurt doing some training. Yesterday, I was with them here in Prague doing some training. And they have some colleagues who I don't work with. They have some colleagues for an office in Belgium. They have colleagues in Slovakia. You know, I can do an active referral campaign. I can make a list of the entities that are in common in this network. I can make a list of the partners that I know. I think, touch wood, I think the partners usually like me. And there's nothing, and the managing partners, there's nothing wrong with me to say, like this guy I had lunch with yesterday, I would say to him, hey, you know, so-and-so, I'm going to be in Paris in May. I'd like to go and meet this French company, these guys. You know, can I do that? Would it be okay if you give me a referral if I name drop you? I wouldn't even be asking him to give me an active referral. I would just be giving a heads up that I'm going to pitch, and I do it. So you can, you know, do an active referral campaign. Make a list of companies in an industry, make a list of your contacts who you know, and then ask them for the introductions. Be systematic about it. Even lawyers, you can do L2L referrals. So L2L, law firm to law firm. If you're, let's say, an employment lawyer, you could reach out to other corporate lawyers in your jurisdiction, small to medium-sized firms, and introduce yourself and say, hey, I can help you with this, especially if they don't have that capacity in their legal practice. In a similar light, you can do L2L referrals if they do the same thing as you. You can say, hey, I'm a corporate lawyer and you're a corporate lawyer. We have this ESOP value proposition. You know, let's pitch this together, both of our firms. You have to be careful here about conflicts and so on, but it's possible. What I mean to say is, and I'm just aware of the time because we have to jump to the interview quite soon. L2L active referrals work. It's a type of L2L selling. You can get active referrals from other lawyers of both categories, either those who don't work in the practice area that you do, and those that do work in the practice area that you do. International L2L referrals can be very powerful. I did this with the Americans. When I was working at one very large international legal consultancy, let's put it that way, one of the things that I was doing was to reach to American partners and managing partners in New York and Washington. We had some contacts, and we would ask our other contacts for introductions to them because they were working in specific areas like business integrity, like white collar, and we wanted to pitch Central and Eastern Europe. You can do this. L2L active referrals. You can do testimonials. If you want to help to get an active referral, you'll see this on my LinkedIn. So yesterday, I think it was, I put a photograph onto LinkedIn when I was in Cyprus, and it showed the photographs of me doing my teaching thing, and it showed the photographs of lawyers, and I said some nice words about the law firm called, I can't pronounce it, Neocleus & Co. They're based in Limassol. So I put this onto the LinkedIn. This isn't just an advertising. This isn't just publicity and marketing, because what I can do is, if I want to get other clients on Cyprus, which I do, because it takes time to get to Cyprus, and if I'm going to be there, I would prefer to be working on Cyprus for 2 or 3 days if I'm going to fly there rather than just one, then I can use that for an active referral. I can use that as part of the bait. I can say to the managing partner, say, hey, and hopefully he's not going to be annoyed that I'm helping his competitors. Hey, you know, I'm interested in such and such a firm. I can tell him. For example, they're based in Nicosia in North Cyprus. So that wouldn't be a direct competitor. Is it okay if I reach out to them? Could you drop a good word for me? And there's a good chance they will. And that photograph, that photo testimonial is going to really, really help. If someone, when you approach them for an active referral, if they say, oh, I can't do it, you know, thanks, James, I can't do Friday, then you respond, okay, how about Tuesday? So if someone says they can't do a time that you've proposed, even if you do an XY close, you suggest another time. If you do an XY close, which means you suggest, how about Tuesday at 2 or Thursday at 4, which makes it easier for them to choose one of them, and they don't choose either, your response is, okay, how about the week after? I can do Monday at 3 or Friday at 7. You do another XY close. And if they refuse on that, then you call a spade a spade. You say, when is good for you? Then what do you prefer? You throw it back to them. You don't have time for nonsense. So sometimes people don't want to give you a rejection, a fire, and what they're responding to you isn't really an advance, it's a continuation. So you do XY, and then Z. And again, you do have to be careful. I was reading yesterday about active referrals. And my background, of course, as you might know, is since I was 18, I was living in Russia and I was with DLA Piper for 8 years. So I have this kind of Russo-centric perspective on business development, which means hospitality. You can give your client chocolate, you can invite your client to places, you can give them gifts, but you have to be careful, because I was reading the American Bar Association Rule of Ethics, and even, I think it's called in Latin, de minimis gifts, you're not even allowed to give, not even symbolic gifts. When I was at Deloitte, actually even in Deloitte, we had a minimum value. I probably shouldn't say what it is. It doesn't matter, I guess. We had a minimum value that you're allowed to accept as a gift. So if it's some chocolate or something, that's fine. If it's above that, if someone's, paying for taking you to the south of France for some luxury holiday or something, it's going to look like bribery and corruption, so you can get into trouble. Be careful about the ethics of ask. I'm recommending you do a T for 3. You might not always be able to. If it's people working in the government sector, if there's some kind of strict regulations about what they're allowed to do or not to do, you might not be able to do this kind of social thing. And so when you're doing an active referral, I would always strongly recommend that you give thanks to them. You always think about who you cannot refer to them as well, but be careful not to get yourself into trouble, into bother about what you're doing. And again, avoid the wishful thinking mistake. The wishful thinking mistake that everyone is going to start selling you and doing things for you. Like, refer me to them, refer me to that, refer me to that. A different way to start this communication would be, as part of your social equity, to think, who can you refer? Or even to do it, or even to matchmake. If you want to do L to L active referrals, then perhaps you could say to that other lawyer, say, hey, look, this is my area of practice. This is your area. What kind of ideal targets would you like? Who can I refer to you? If there is reciprocity, and especially if you make the first move and you offer something first, you're more likely to get success. Again, in the international law firms, in the Big Four, this is usually not what I see happening. Everyone is very focused on their own practice, their own activities. Give me, give me, give me. It's not the wisest approach to get long-term collaboration or any collaboration. And of course, give thanks. Oh my goodness, this should be obvious, but it's not. Someone gives you an active referral, give them thanks for that you had that dinner together, that you had that lunch, that you had that recommendation. You get a mandate, you're hired by that active referral. Give thanks. Send a handwritten postcard, again, like a mail shot. Some nice cover. Send a handwritten message. Thank you so much. It was very nice that this person started working with us. It's very, very good, and you're delighted. So send a thank you note. Be old school, 20th century. Show your appreciation. If you're allowed to, maybe buy them some chocolates, get them some flowers, send them a bottle of wine. But again, be careful about the ethics of ask. Don't get yourself into bother that it turns out that you're being a little bit too thankful when you shouldn't be. So we're going to jump onto an interview. But what can we take away from today's session? Last time I introduced the idea of active referrals at all. I repeat, passive referrals are not as great as you think they are. Sometimes an A client will recommend to you another A client as a passive referral, and that's fantastic. And you're happy and you get that work. Most of the time, that's not how it works. Most of the time, A clients recommend a B client or a C, wrong industry, wrong sector, commodity work, bad timing, pay pressure. So I'm not really a fan of the passive referrals. A very nice task for you to do, let me give you an optional homework. A very nice task for you to do would be make a little list, do an active referral campaign. Make a list, 1, 2, 3, 4. These are your good clients, these people. Look on LinkedIn, identify who they know, and then just send off those emails. And you'll be surprised that your clients like you. You probably do have social equity. If you have an interesting value proposition and you suggest a T for 3 with them and their colleague, there's a good chance that they would agree. And what's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is they ignore you or they say no. So I think you will have much higher success by active referrals than just by cold pitching. Probably active referrals is one of the best ways to get new clients.